everybody. We're going to do our last two chapters for Hurricane Heroes in Texas. So today it's going to be chapter 9 and 10. All right, chapter 9, It's Gone. What a wonderful mystery, Mother Mary Joseph said softly. Your light shines for all those who need us. Who are you? Sister Agnes asked in a hushed voice. Angels? Annie laughed. No, we're tourists, she said. Faint voices came from across the dark waters. Hello? Anyone there? Yes, Annie called back from the window. This way. Jack and Annie worked with Sister Agnes and Mother Mary Joseph for the rest of the night. They all helped storm refugees find their way into the Ursuline Academy. They called out again and again, urging them to come toward the light. Jack and Annie helped people climb through the window. They led them to the auditorium. They gave them shoes and blankets, and they were never too tired to lend a hand. Just before dawn, the water started going down, and by first light of the morning, Jack saw that the floodwaters had flowed back out to sea, like water draining from a bathtub. The great Galveston hurricane was over. Sunlight streamed in. Morgan's tiny star sparkled in the window. The glass star was just a glass star again. Annie took the necklace down and put it around her neck. Oh no, said Jack, looking out the window. Not one building was left standing between the academy and the waterfront. The ground was covered with pools of muddy brown water and mounds of trash. Bells began to ring from the chapel. A new day is beginning, Mother Mary Joseph said. Yes, said Annie. Deadly storms are terrible, said Mother Mary Joseph, but they always end. Then you start over, and you look at the world a little differently. Yes, said Jack. He was suddenly so tired he couldn't even think straight. You must both lie down and rest, said the nun. You can sleep in my room. Thanks, said Annie, but we have to find our parents right away so they'll know we're safe. Please tell Rose, Lily, and Lucas goodbye for us. Of course, said the nun, I will. And thank Rose for taking good care of us, and tell her not to worry. We know how to find our mom and dad. Are you certain you know where they are? The nun asked. Yes, we just have to get back to Avenue L near 25th Street, said Annie. Is that far from here? Jack asked Mother Mary Joseph. Oh, no, it's very close, she answered. Only 2 blocks north. Thanks, said Annie. Mother Mary Joseph looked worried. Are you positive you can find your parents? She asked. No question about it, Annie said. Promise, or you'll come right back here if you don't find them, the nun said. Promise? Promise, said Jack and Annie together. Mother Mary Joseph and Jack and Annie led Jack and Annie down the stairs to the first level of the building. All the windows were broken and all the doors had been blown away. The storm water had drained out, leaving muddy puddles on the stone floor. Mother Mary Joseph stopped at the open entranceway. Thank you for all of your help and for your guiding light, she said. Thank you for helping us, said Annie. You remind me of a good friend of ours named Morgan. Me too, said Jack. Mother Mary Joseph smiled. Be careful, my friends. She bowed her head and then left them. Mother Mary Joseph was the hero Morgan wanted us to learn from, said Annie. Right, said Jack, and he quoted Morgan's rhyme. Learn from a hero who's humble and brave, who welcomes the hundreds on arriving on waves. Look her up in our Texas book, said Annie. I'm afraid it's ruined, said Jack, and he pulled off his knapsack and took out the Texas book. It was soaking wet. All of the pages were stuck together. Oh, too bad, said Annie. Jack put the book back in his knapsack. Let's go, he said. Then he and Annie headed out of the Ursuline Academy. They took each other's hands and began slogging through the mud. As they walked up 25th Street, Jack looked straight ahead. He tried not to think about the destroyed city and the mounds of wreckage. Instead, Jack kept his mind on home, on the Frog Creek woods and their house and their mom and dad. He thought of Morgan Le Fay and Merlin and the magic treehouse. Soon Jack and Annie turned onto Avenue L. All the houses had been torn apart on that street, too. Only a few walls and chimneys remained. There's the iron fence, said Annie, and they walked through the open gateway to the fence into the muddy yard. Annie gasped. It's gone, she said. I know, said Jack. We were there with Rose when her house was destroyed. No, not Rose's house, said Annie. Our house is gone. She pointed to the remains of an oak tree. That was our tree. The trunk was split in two. All the upper branches were gone, and so was the magic tree house. Yikes. Chapter 10. Hurricane Heroes. Jack stared at the bare, broken tree. He couldn't believe it. It's gone, he said in a whisper. Wait, said Annie. Is that it? She pointed to a pile of muddy boards jammed against the iron fence. Maybe, said Jack, what's left of it. He and Annie stepped over to the ruins of the treehouse. The floor was covered with brown mud, and the roof was missing. 3 of the 4 walls had caved in. Jack started to lift one of the fallen walls. Hold on, said Annie. She reached under the wall and pulled out their wet Pennsylvania book. Oh no, it's ruined too. Look at that. Wait, said Annie. She carefully peeled apart some pages. Here's the photo of Frog Creek Woods. She showed Jack the smeared page. That's all we need. Get into the treehouse. Are you crazy? Said Jack. Just get in, said Annie. There's no in to get in, Annie, said Jack. Fine, then we'll just sit on the floor. Holding the book, Annie sat down on the muddy floor. Jack sat beside her. He had gotten so used to being wet and grimy that he didn't even think about the mud. Annie pointed at the smeared photo of Frog Creek. I wish we could go there, she said. Nothing happened. Jack put his head in his hands. I wish we could go there, shouted Annie. Jack felt the floor of the treehouse start to move. Whoa, he said. He couldn't believe it. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still. Absolutely still. Tap, tap, tap. A breeze blew through the window of the treehouse. Rain splashed softly against the oak leaves. We're home, Annie said. Jack looked around. As always, no time at all had passed in Frog Creek. Jack and Annie were wearing their own dry, comfortable clothes and shoes again. The canvas knapsack had changed into Jack's backpack. The Pennsylvania book lay on a clean floor. It was in perfect shape. Best of all, the treehouse had a window again, and 4 walls and a roof. I didn't know if the magic of the treehouse would fix the treehouse itself, whispered Jack. I was pretty sure it could, said Annie. Of course you were, said Jack, smiling. Come on, let's hurry home. Wait, I want to look at the Texas book one more time, said Annie. It was ruined by the water damage, remember, said Jack. Yep, but I bet it's fine now. Jack pulled their Texas book out of his backpack, and the book was good as new. Yay, said Annie. You were right, said Jack, and he handed her the book. Annie looked in the index. Here, she said, and she turned to the right page. Oh, wow, listen to this. And she read out loud. Mother Mary Joseph was an outstanding hero of the great Galveston hurricane of 1900. When the storm hit the island, she and her community of nuns saved the lives of more than 1,000 storm refugees. Many people of Galveston called her. Annie gasped and looked at Jack. You won't believe this, she said. What? He said. Listen, Annie read. Many people of Galveston called her a shining light. Oh, man, said Jack, smiling. Annie turned the page and read more. After the storm, 6,000 to 12,000 people were dead or missing, and 4,000 buildings were destroyed. But the survivors of the great Galveston hurricane did not give up. In spite of their suffering, they immediately began rebuilding their homes and their lives. Rose would say that's what Texans do, said Jack. She was so proud to live in Texas, said Annie, and she kept reading. Workers also built a high seawall to keep the sea from ever destroying Galveston again. Most amazing of all, they pumped sand from the floor of the Gulf to rise the level of the whole city. Today, Galveston is one of the best protected cities on the Gulf Coast. That's really great, said Annie, and she put the book on the floor. I'd like to go there again in our time. Me too, said Jack. I'd like to meet the great-great-grandchildren of Rose and Lucas, said Annie. And Lily, said Jack. Annie smiled. But first I'd like to go home and see Mom and Dad. Yep, said Jack. I'd like that more than anything in the world. Annie took off her star necklace and set it on top of the Texas book. Jack pulled on his backpack and climbed down the rope ladder. Annie followed. As they started through the woods, the rain gradually stopped falling. Streams of misty sunlight slanted through the trees. Birds sang loudly. Remember what Mother Mary Joseph told us, said Annie. Deadly storms are terrible, but they always end. Then you start over, said Jack, and you look at the world a little differently. Yeah, like ordinary things seem more special than before, said Annie. Like comfortable shoes, said Jack. Like birds, said Annie. Like sunlight, said Jack. Like family and friends, said Annie. Like family and friends, repeated Jack. Let's hurry. He and Annie took off running through the Frog Creek woods, heading for home. So I really like that part. So that was the end of it. Sorry, the end. But I love the quote that they said, the deadly storms are terrible, but they always end. It kind of reminds me of what we're doing right now with all the, having to stay at home and stay safe. We just have to kind of remember that this will end, and we'll eventually get to go back to school, and we'll eventually get to see each other and give each other hugs. So I'm really looking forward to that. And hopefully you guys can take what you're doing at home with your families and what you're learning online and, learning how to do things differently. Just try to appreciate it as much as you can. I know it's not always fun. It's not always the way you want to do stuff, but luckily we have technology and we can see our friends a lot of times. You can hear me read books, lots of different things. So just try to really take advantage of that. And go and give your parents a hug, or anybody that you feel like that's in your house. Nobody that's nobody that's out of your house. But anyway, thank you for listening to this book, and I had a lot of fun reading it. And we'll see if we can get another one going. Thanks. Bye, guys.